guys, Aiden here, back with another video, and today I'm kind of doing another story time, like always. And this story time, you read the title, and you're probably wondering, Aiden, you're lying. There's no way you were on the radio. And well, if you listen to QURL, no, not the news station, but KURL. Yeah, that's what it's called, and it's on the radio. It's mostly okay. Let me just tell you the story. Okay, so it was in the middle of December. Yeah, December, and I was and school just got out, and my principal was just walking around patrolling to make sure everyone got to their parents. And I noticed that my pa, he wasn't like pulled up to the road. So I was just waiting there for him, and I was just playing around on the sidewalk. You know how kids tried to do that balancing thing with the at the edge of the sidewalk to see if they're gonna fly off. Well, I basically did that. Luckily, I didn't fall off as soon as he asked me this. Anyways, okay, so I was just doing that, and he walks up to me, and I'm like, "Oh, hi," and in my head, I'm like, "What the heck does he want?" And he's like, "Hey, Aiden, do you want to be on the radio?" And I'm like, "Oh, funny joke," because if you know my principal, you know that he loves joking around. He's a comedian, and well, that's not his full job, but he makes comedic jokes. Okay. Anyways, so one, I thought this was just one of his jokes, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, funny. That would be cool though." And he's like, "No, I'm being serious. Do you want to go on the radio?" I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is sick." And he's like, "Yeah, do you want to be on the radio?" I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Okay, come to my office on Monday, because this was on Friday." And he's like, go to my office on Monday. And I'm like, "Okay." And so my pa pulls up to the driveway. I'm like, "Oh, hi. You're not gonna believe what I'm gonna tell you when I get in the car." And he's like, "Okay." And he's used to me telling him stories about my classmates being like weird or something, because my class is pretty weird. I'm not to name any names, but there are some weird kids in my class. Anyways, so he's like, "Okay." So I get in the car, and I'm like, "You're not gonna believe what Mr. Thomas just told me." And he's like, "Okay, try me." And I tell him that he asked me to be on the radio. And my pa's like, "What? That's a really funny joke." and of course, he didn't believe it either, because comedian, yeah, anyways. And so I go to, we get back home, and sure enough, my pa gets an email from Mr. Thomas saying that Aiden's going to be on the radio, so he's going to miss schoolwork on a certain date. I think it was like 2 weeks after he said that, like 2 weeks after I got the script, I was going to go on the radio. I think it was actually like the 23rd of December. And so he gave me the script. I don't have the script on me right now because I think I lost it. But I got the script, and it's like, "Hey guys, my name's Aiden. Check out Trinity School and stuff." Yeah. So I tell him that. So I tell him thank you. So he said he'll give me the script on Monday. So Monday comes, and I don't get the script, and I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Oh yeah, I kind of forgot to copy. I kind of forgot to make it. Sorry. And I'm like, oh no, that's fine. Just as long as I get it. And the next day comes. He doesn't have it, and I'm like, okay, there's something sketchy going on here. And the next day comes, nothing. And then, finally, Friday arrives. Now, let me tell you something. He promised me this on, like, last week's Friday, and then he gives it to me on this Friday. Well, on that Friday. And I'm like, bruh. And he's like, okay, you have 2 weeks to study this, so, you don't stumble over your words and stuff. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So, Friday, well, the second week, like 2 weeks later, I actually memorized most of the script. And, so I go to school. It's just normal, so I'm like, okay, it's just normal day. And, at the beginning of the day, first we do like Pledge of Allegiance and stuff, and then we just talk about what we're gonna do through the day, and at the end of all of that, we start English, and so I was in my English class. I'm tired because I didn't get that much sleep. I was too excited because I knew that this week I was gonna be on the radio. And so I'm tired. I'm like yawning. And after I yawn, you know how you have to like, you know how sometimes you close your eyes when you yawn? It was one of those yawns. That's how hard I was yawning. And as soon as I opened them, Mr. Thomas was in our class. I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's Mr. Thomas. And usually he comes in and gives kids gifts because, if you don't know, I go to a private school, so he gives people like candy and a Buffalo Wild Wings like gift card for like $5. And I've read one of the notes that the kid got, and the note was like happy baptism day and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I kind of want to be baptized. And so he comes in, and he does actually have a note. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably just a baptism, like, birthday thing. And he walks over to the teacher, and he's like, he's trying to be like super secretive, and he's like whispering into the teacher's ear. And the teacher is staring at me while I'm doing it. And I'm like halfway across the class from her, and her staring at me. I'm like, oh, like I'm shaking now. I'm like, what? Am I in trouble? And then she's like, Aiden, come up here. And I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble. And I noticed that Mr. Thomas is wearing his coat. And he only wears his coat when he's about to leave. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you're going with Mr. Thomas for a while. And I'm like, huh? So Mr. Thomas leads me to the gym. And in the gym, there's like 5 exits all throughout the gym. And we go to the exit to the parking lot where only teachers park. Like that's their exit. That's where they exit all the time. And my gym's like pretty big. My gym's where we eat food, do gym, do chapels, stuff like that. And like I walk across where the bleachers are, and we're going to the door, and Mr. Thomas opens it, and we go through it and stuff, and we get in his car, and his car is pretty nice. Well, like the car inside's pretty nice. Like usually when I get inside someone's car, it's kind of messy, like a little bit, but this car was clean. Like it didn't have anything in it, except for something on the seat, but that was like a car seat because he has children. Well, a grandchild, but anyways. So I get in, I sit next to the booster, and we're just sitting in there, and he's like, so how's your day been? And I'm like, tired. And he's like, yeah, I am too. I have to get here like 5 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, that must be bad. And I'm like, wait, where are we going? And he's like, we're going to KURL radio station. And I'm like, oh, this is official. Like, this is big. So, we're just driving through. We're talking about our favorite radio stations. And I say Cat Country. And he's like, oh, yeah, I listen to them too. My favorite is probably actually KURL. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And, so we're listening to Cat Country. Mark and Paul are just talking. Now, if you don't know who Mark and Paul is, then, just watch. Just listen to Cat Country. And, so we go there and, we get there. And this is, like, far out. And, like, I felt like I was going somewhere to get murdered. Like, that's how, like, closed off it is. Like, there's nothing around except for, like, cornfields and stuff. And, so we go in there, and it's, like, snowing, so I'm, like, bundled up in my blue jacket, and I don't know why it matters what color it is. But I'm, like, in my jacket, and, by the time I get in, like, I have to stomp off my feet and stuff because there's like this like little carpet thing, and the carpet says welcome to KURL, and I'm like, oh, this is fancy. And I look to the left and right of me, and I see I see windows on each side. One of them has a recording studio, and another one has an office. Now, in the recording studio part, I see these two guys. They're both wearing like business outfits and stuff. Well, not like business outfits, but like not too fancy, but not too not fancy clothes. And they're waving at me, and I wave back. And I'm like, hi. And I see one of them exit the room, and he walks around the like through the hallway. Now, let me just put this in perspective. It's not really that big of a recording studio. It's as big as like pretty big apartment. Yeah, that's how you would put it. Like a pretty big apartment. And so we get in there, and he comes around the corner. He's like, hello, Rick, because that's Mr. Thomas's real name. And he's like, hi, who are you? And he's like, hi, you must be Aiden. And I'm like, how do you know my name? He's like, oh, Rick was telling me all about you. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so Mr. Thomas is like, yeah, this is the kid I was telling you about. And so he's like, follow me and we'll start recording your audio. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so we go into the room that he was just in, and I go inside, and like YouTubers, when they have like those really expensive like microphones that have like the pot and pan shaped like kind of thing. Well, they had like the really expensive mics, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really good. And he's like, did you bring your what's it called again? Did you bring your lines, your script? And I'm like, oh no, I forgot it at home. And he's like, oh, don't worry. And then Mr. Thomas is like, oh, don't worry, I have some. I have it. So so the note he was carrying when he first walked in was the script. And I noticed that there was another paper he had, and I found out that he was also speaking there too. So I guess he was like, that was his script also. So, we sit down, and there's like this thing above the microphone. It looks like one of those clips you put on your laundry. And he's like, you could just hang your script up right here. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And like, it's right in front of the microphone, so you could like read off of it. And I read off of it and stuff. So I'm just sitting down on this like brown couch, and while I'm waiting for Mr. Thomas to do his. And after he did his, we go back, and Mr. Thomas gets a call, and he's like, and on the call it's like, oh yeah, the audio that we got from you, it kind of got deleted on accident. And so he drops me off at school, and he's like, well, I have to go back and record more audio, so have a good day. Just catch up on your schoolwork. And like, okay, because English was pretty easy. And so I get there, and everyone's like, Aiden, where were you? Were you at the dentist appointment? And I'm like, no, I was actually recording stuff for the radio. And everyone's like, no, you're joking. You're not for real. And I'm like, I am for real. And they're like, how do we believe you? And I'm like, well, how about you go on KURL radio? And they're like, okay. And the next day I get to school, and they're like, Aiden, I heard you on the radio. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah. And everyone's freaking out that I was actually on the radio. And they're like, oh my gosh, Aiden, you're famous now. People are going to ask you for your autograph. And I'm like, no, they won't. I'm just a child. And actually, people did recognize me out in public. Because I'm like walking down, and I'm walking, and I see this person, and they're like, oh, hi, hello, and I'm like, hi. And they actually needed help getting something, and I helped them, and then they're like, what's your name? And I'm like, my name's Aiden. And they're like, you sound familiar. Wait, were you on the radio? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to be on the radio and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's pretty much the story. Smash the like button for Cheetos. Well, anyways, guys, that's the end of this video. Subscribe, comment, share, favorite video, and yeah, bye.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.